Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining MSP Edition 21, Marketing Messaging, Breaking Through the Noise and Be Heard. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So today, our presenters are myself. I'm Tom Watson. I'm the VP of MSP Best Practices at Axient. And then I have JP. JP, please introduce yourself.
Hello. I'm JP Rowe, Marketing Director at Your Sales Energy, and we are a IT channel specific marketing agency. And really looking forward to this topic. Definitely, this is a good one.
Thanks, JP. And we're going to jump right in here. And this is going to be a short and quick webinar, and then we'll answer some questions, and we have a couple polls along the way. First, I'd like to talk to you about Axient's products, just real quick. Axient is a business availability solution that we offer. We've got business continuity, cloud-enabled file services. We have VMware cloud protection. We can protect all your data in the cloud or on-site with a number of devices and services. For more information, please reach out. Thank you. First, we're going to have a quick question here, and you're going to see a poll pop up on your screen. We're going to give everyone just a couple seconds. What we kind of mean by this is, when you like to think about your marketing in your business, how does it make you feel? I know for a lot of MSPs, marketing is not a natural thing, and that's why we're putting this on.
Yeah, so
JP.
A lot of people hear this question, or they see this question, and it seems kind of little tongue-in-cheek, a little bit goofy. Why should I be excited about it? Or I don't even understand how it should excite me. And really, it's such an important question. It's actually a lot more of a branding question than what we're getting into right now. But since all of your marketing messaging is an extension of your brand, it does fit in a very important way, which is going to come up on the next slide, and that's why this question is very relevant today.
And I think we've got the results here, JP. It looks like almost everyone voted, and it's pretty evenly split here. But as we can imagine, a lot of people, it's not. But it's important to get excited about it because we know that's the way we're going to drive more business in. Go ahead and close that. We've got a quote here. I don't know if you'd like to just cover this real quick, JP.
Yeah, so authenticity, honesty, and personal voice underlie much of what's successful on the web. And that first word, authenticity, that's really a big reason why that excitement is important to your overall marketing strategy, because one of the worst things about generic marketing and just the boring marketing, the stuff that everybody cranks out, and this isn't just the IT channel, this is all over the internet, is that it's very inauthentic. I mean, you see something that's generic, you see something that doesn't really speak from the brand, and you don't get that personal connection with the business or the offering or anything. It's just there. It's noise, and that's why we came up with the name for this particular webinar, Break Through the Noise and Be Heard, because that's really one of the things that you need to do with your brand and your messaging is rise above all of that static that's out there right now in the marketing world.
Yeah, as we jump into this, JP, I got to tell you, that's my big thing. And I just tune it out when I see messages aren't authentic. And that's what we're going to focus on here. We're going to dive right in. Now, I'm going to hand this over to JP about how do you come up with that real authentic message that resonates and it gets people to pick up the phone and call you.
Yeah, so through the course of this webinar, we're going to cover a couple of things. Coming up with the messaging, the way that you approach the writing, and then also how you're going to present that writing to get higher conversion rates off of it. That's the why people buy that we're going to into next. Now, bear in mind that we're probably going to be talking about this a lot in the context of writing emails, because email marketing, as you know, is still huge, especially in the channel. Over 80% of conversions are going to be somehow come from an email marketing campaign. It's critical to your overall strategy, but all of this information applies to any copy, any marketing copy that you need to produce. So even if you're writing a script for a video, or you're just putting content on your homepage of your website, all of this still applies. So first, we're going to go into coming up with messaging. And it's important to ask yourself the right questions before you get into the writing, before you actually sit down to do any of the creation of this content. And first, it's always important to remember what marketing is supposed to do, the actual point of all marketing. And it's not brand awareness, it's not getting your name out there. The point of it is to move prospects through the buyer's journey. And ideally, if you're doing it effectively, you're moving them through that journey ultimately to spend their money with you. So first off, as with everything we do, audience identification is important. You've got to know, who are you speaking to? So who cares about what you're trying to tell them about this message that you're communicating? First question, who's going to care about it? Who's going to care about what I have to offer? All right. And the second question you need to ask is, why should they care? You know, why does it matter? Sometimes you have to tell them because they don't already understand the benefits from your offer, or B, you're reinforcing something that they've already figured out, and you want to make sure that you're clearly communicating that your offer is going to improve their life in some way. And then the next step is communicating why you're the answer. What makes you the solution to that problem? That's super critical, because just informing the prospect is not going to lead to a high conversion rate. I mean, it's good to tell them the facts and to talk about benefits and things like that, but you also need to make sure you're saying very clearly why we or your company is the one that's going to solve their problems. And then you need to prove it. So social proof, case studies, testimonials, things like that are incredibly important for a fully built out marketing campaign of any kind. You're going to want to be able to say, you know, I know what you need. This is why you need it. This is why we are the best company to help you with that. And here's proof backing up that claim. Because, you know, just saying it only gets you so far. But when you have evidence that you are absolutely the best choice for this particular audience, it goes all the way, it takes it all the way across the goal line. And now the last thing, and this becomes a little bit difficult sometimes with the IT channel, because we don't have a lot of options that you would have in, say, retail or e-commerce, as far as creating calls to action, urgency. But it is important to try to come up with ways creatively that you can create a sense of urgency to cause someone to respond immediately to what you're offering them. Now, we have a really long sales cycle, B2B. I mean, that's just the nature of the game. It's very hard for an MSP to have what we would call like a tripwire offer, which is, you know, sign up today and get it half off type thing. But these offers that create urgency, if you can find ways to incorporate that into your marketing, are extraordinarily effective.
You know, JP, something that just popped into my mind here. You know, I remember, like, if someone sends out like a message to me, like a follow-up from like a call, or maybe I met them out somewhere at a networking event, and they've got like below their signature, they've got like a little testimonial quote. And like something's like asking me about this, or like, you know, we've got this going on, or there's some kind of promotion. I'm more likely like to respond to that. He kind of personalizes it and brings it into like, wow, let's quotes from someone in there. I just wonder what you think about that kind of stuff, like just the little things that kind of bring it home.
Yeah, absolutely. Anywhere that you can show off some social proof, do it, you know. And actually, there's a lot of MSPs that have done very well by putting photographs in their signature line of them speaking at very high profile engagements, things like that. It all goes back to social proof. You're establishing that you are an authority, that you have proven yourself, that you know, that there's reason, and we're going to get into that in the next slide, at why that's so important, but there's reasons why you should be listened to. Because, you know, in a lot of ways, that's one of the challenges, is convincing your prospects that you have the actual expertise and you have the answers and that you're capable of delivering.
Yeah, so I think we're ready for our next poll, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go and launch this.
And this is a big one. You know, a lot of MSPs are doing their own marketing. They're writing their own emails. Unfortunately, it looks like a lot of MSPs aren't doing any email marketing at all. Definitely something that you should start if you haven't yet. But curious to see how many.
JP is a former MSP owner. I think kind of what comes up here, no, and I would have clicked no, is that I just don't know where to start. And there's a lot of services out there. There's a lot of messaging towards MSPs and others about how to do it. And then, of course, we all know there's a lot of players out there that kind of giving everyone the same generic message. And so when I think about this, I think about like it's got to be customized, you know, and it's got to be unique to me and what I'm trying to say, and I can't be the same thing everyone else is getting. So I guess at that point, you really got to consult the experts.
Yeah, because what you're facing is very common, and it's why we are so adamant about building a great foundation when we take on a new client. And that means a lot of digging and understanding and self-awareness, making sure that we fully define who this MSP is, who the people are behind it, and branding. Because once you've established all of that, once you've created this launch pad of where all your messaging is going to come from, all of those things become so much easier because you know exactly what you really need to say and how you're supposed to say it. Writing an email becomes trivial. I mean, it when you start off on that correct foot and you've got everything nailed down at the beginning, everything else is almost a cakewalk, really, because you're not sitting down trying to think, what am I supposed to say or what do people want to hear? You've already determined all of that in your initial strategic planning of your marketing.
Absolutely. And, you know, got that poll out of the way, and it kind of tells us, you know, a lot of people aren't doing any messaging at all. And, you know, you got to get going on that for sure. It doesn't have to be a lot, you know, it can be controlled. It doesn't have to take a lot of time, but, you know, find some experts and talk to someone about it. But I'm going to jump into this quote right here. And that's one thing too, is if I get messaging from someone in some way and it kind of talks down to me or something like that, I'm like, who is this? I'm not interested in that. I want something that kind of enables me in some way, that's talking to me as, hey, listen, we know about your business and we respect it. We respect you and we want to help you. And approaching the consumer as they're an educated in their own right and they know what they need and you're going to help them get there, I think that's the way to go.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And what this quote is kind of speaking to the idea that I would say it speaks towards brand awareness and how overplayed that often is as a concept, because I mean, it is important to have your taglines and your slogans and, you know, intelligent use of adjectives. You really don't want to go overboard with that. But at the end of the day, it all has to be the extension of a brand that's able to actually satisfy various needs and communicate something deeper than just, you know, here's a cool picture and here's our slogan, come to us, you know. And again, this goes back into the very deep process of effectively branding a company.
Absolutely. We'll jump into our next part here. I'll go ahead and hand this back to JP.
So this is where it gets very technical, but very useful to follow this information. So as you're communicating your message and you've already identified who you're talking to and what you're offering them and all of that, but when you're writing an email, let's say, you want to make sure that you're giving the information needed to push them through their journey. Again, that's the goal of all this marketing. It's not just to say, here's this thing, do you want to buy it? In fact, that's one of the biggest mistakes of email marketing is people get very pushy very early on and they haven't built any kind of a relationship first. So of course you're going to get tuned out. Well, when you go to write your emails, and again, this information, these 4 pieces here will work on any type of marketing copy. But what you want to do is you want to address the reasons why people actually make a buying decision. And by and large, there's 4. I mean, this covers pretty much the whole gamut of why people are going to pull out their wallet or sign a contract. So the first reason is personal gain. And that's the most obvious one. You can look at it in a lot of ways as being almost a selfish drive. This is going to be entirely about how is this going to make my life better? How's it going to make me look better? It goes beyond even in a B2B environment. It goes beyond even the company that you're trying to sell to. This can be a very, like I said, selfish personal gain that you're able to play off of. Now, the second, social proof, huge one. People will tend to cave to peer pressure. They want to fit into a group. They want to do what everybody else is doing to succeed. That's just fact. And if you can show, that a large cross section of an audience that's similar to them is making the same decision, hey, they're all choosing us and they're all very, very happy about it. Look at these testimonials. Social proof is incredibly powerful. And then fear of missing out, that's where the urgency and the scarcity comes in. A lot of people are extremely afraid of missing a great deal. I mean, that's in e-commerce sales, that is like the number one thing that's used to actually get sales, is saying, hey, you're looking at this thing and we know you're interested in it. Well, if you buy it today, you get it for 75% of its price. But if you come back tomorrow, you're paying full price. It's not, most of the time, that's not even true. But just creating that feeling that, oh, if I wait, I'm going to miss out on this and feel really stupid that I paid full price for it. That really drives conversions. It's huge.
JP, when I'm thinking back to my days, owning an MSP, one of the things I did is I kind of took on as many clients in all kinds of verticals as I could. And I remember some of the really big players in the MSP world that really did well where I was. And they would do things like they would only take on certain verticals and they would only take on clients at certain times. And they kind of made themselves they weren't available to everyone. And they were like, hey, if you want to talk to us, we're available now because we're the experts and we specialize in this and we're the best at this. And it kind of reminds me of what you're saying here. It made people understand that this MSP really had it together, but they were not for everyone. They were unique.
Yeah, and that's definitely an exclusivity angle. It works very well. I know a lot of MSPs over the years that I've talked to have been very eager to try that particular angle. And I think I've heard we want to be the BMW of IT thing from so many people. And there is a way to pull that off effectively. It's just, it's a complete marketing approach. It's not something that you can do kind of offhanded and just change a little bit of your presentation. It's something that you have to fully commit to. But yeah, that level of exclusivity is very powerful.
Absolutely. So, and moving on here.
Yep. So the fourth is logic. Fourth point. Now, this is a big one, and this is the one that most IT providers and technology businesses in general will focus on, especially early on in when they're trying to do their own marketing, because it's the thing we all understand. It's facts. It's this is why you need this particular solution. Here's the bullet points explaining how this is going to solve your problems. Logic does play a role in every buying decision. And in B2B with a long sales cycle, logic plays a huge part, more so than most other marketing endeavors. So it's something that you definitely have to address. And logic, that point is where not only do facts come into play, but that's where price comes into play. And because you're getting people who are now making comparisons between products, they're looking at their different options. And it's important to remember here that it's not really about price as much as it's about value perception. So you don't have to be at a lower price point to leverage this fourth point to beat at the logic game. You don't have to just be cheaper. It's really important that you build the value perception of what you're offering to match the price point that you actually want to get. I mean, if that weren't true, then there would be no luxury items on the planet. Nobody would buy them because pure logic would tell them either this is actually useless a gold necklace is not really going to do anything for me, so why should I pay this much money for it? Or that BMW is going to get me to work just as well as this Honda Civic will. Why would I pay more for the BMW? Obviously, people don't think that way because these companies exist. The onus is on you to increase your value perception to match the price point that you're trying to get. So it can be done. It's just a matter of working that into your overall marketing strategy. So on the next slide is the point to take away from why people buy. The best communications that you come up with are going to touch on all 4 of these points. It's not always the easiest thing to do, but you can definitely make sure that when you send out an email, it addresses social proof. It gives the benefits that will personally affect your prospect. You want to cover the logical points of actual features and how these solutions are going to perform. And then, of course, if you have some way to create urgency, you can also do that. You can do all of these in one email. But by doing that, you're actually making sure that you are communicating the message correctly to different types of people. So that way, if someone is going to respond more to personal gain, you've got them. And if somebody's going to respond only to logic, well, you're appealing to them as well. So it is a good idea to try to make sure that you're fitting all of that into each communication that you send out. Yeah, so the takeaway, which you're going to get after the webinar, goes into a little bit more detail about how you can execute on this. So it talks about the why people buy, the 4 points, and the questions that you should ask before writing your marketing copy. And I definitely recommend if you're doing your own emails, just print this out, keep it handy, because you can look at that every time you go to write a piece of copy and just say, okay, I did this, I did this, I did this, and the effectiveness of what you produce is going to increase. It's pretty much hands down a guide to making a more effective sales email. If you execute on those points, you will see better results. Now, the other thing that I wanted to bring up real quick is that we're actually about to launch something new on our website. It's a membership-based marketing resource for a lot of our fans and people that have been following us on the webinars and things, that they don't want to go all in on hiring us for our consulting services and our full management of their marketing. And what this is going to be a very low price point membership system where you have full access to a library of marketing materials. We've already started putting a bunch of guides in there. We're going to be we're building up our video library. So there's videos that you can use for your social media marketing. And one thing that's going in there next is a guide to writing your emails, including how to plan out exactly when to send them and what each one of those emails should talk about. What we're trying to do is make it extremely easy for anyone who's still doing their own marketing to use the methods that we talk about without having to engage us at our full consulting price. So anyone who's on the webinar today, after we get your email addresses, I'm going to send you an email just telling you a little bit about that and letting you know exactly when that's going to be fully deployed.
Yeah, I just like, as we kind of wrap things up here, JP, I'd just like to bring a couple points I'd like to ask anyone if they have any questions to please put them up. And my big takeaway from this is a lot of the times I do these webinars, I like to think about how would I do it again if I had an MSP? And maybe I will someday. And the way I really think about it now is when I'm coming into an MSP, or if I already had one, I need to have a marketing plan, and email and messaging across multiple platforms needs to be part of it, needs to be authentic, and need to back that up. But here's the thing, I need to keep doing it on a regular basis. I think that's the big thing that people need to understand. Once you start doing it, if you send someone a message and then you send them another one 4 or 5 days later, another one 4 or 5 days later, and then you wait a month before you send them another one, well, it's not exactly going to work the way you want. You need to have a plan behind it, consult the experts, come up with an authentic message, and repeat it and do it multiple ways over and over again. And that's just going to drive business to you because people are going to they're going to get used to seeing it. And it's going to be like, oh, maybe I do want to talk to those guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Consistency is, and I'll tell you, that's got to be one of the most daunting things when you're sitting down to do your own marketing. Because I mean, I know from many years of experience when I first started out trying to do my own email marketing, you sit down and you're like, okay, writing one email isn't that hard, but you look at the future and you're thinking, well, I have to write a lot more than one. I've got to write an email every 3 to 4 days for months. And you sit down and think of it that way, and suddenly it's like, I don't even want to get started. Like, where do I begin? You know, there's just so much that needs to be created. And so,
JP, we've got a couple questions here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a first one. Would it be a good idea to include a quote from a customer in your email regarding the service you're advertising?
I would say that goes, it really depends on how you're branding your offering. I would say that the broad answer based off of, you know, MSPs and the IT channel is probably no. If you've done a good deal of branding that allows you to have fixed price points and you're very transparent with it, which is something that we're playing around with a lot, is getting that transparency as part of the offering, then yeah, there are ways that you can do that without it being harmful to your goals. I'm trying to see that question again.
Well, I think it's kind of going to here. Here's kind of where I would think about it. You know, one vertical I always like to kind of go after were law firms.
Yeah.
And what I'm thinking is, if I had a list of people at law firms, and I put together a marketing email that's kind of like, you know, so-and-so, my MSP, we specialize in law firms and we do this and this. And then I got a quote that's from like some famous lawyer in the area at the bottom and says, you know, we love the IT services from this company. They've taken care of us for years. They're the best. I got to tell you, I think that's compelling.
Forgive me, Tom. And was this Nate? I totally misread your question when you said quote. I thought you were talking about pricing. No, quotes. Yes, absolutely. Testimonials. You want to have them out there as much as possible. I do like to put them in signatures, email signatures, so that you know they're going out consistently without having to really think about it. But in the email schedules that we set up, and again, this is something that we're going to share openly through that membership portal that I was talking about. The schedule is actually going to tell you exactly what you should have in each email. And some of them are more focused on social proof. These are based off of established chains of communication that result in high conversion rates. So there's going to be specific emails you send down, you know, 3 or 4 emails into a campaign that are focused entirely on social proof. And one cool thing about these is that you might have the subject line of the email is actually part of the quote, because it gets someone to engage with it and kind of and see themselves in the buyer's journey, because that's a big part of narrative and marketing and storytelling is showing this prospect, you know, this is where you are, this is what you're stuck with, you know, this is how we help, and this is what you're going to be, this is what your life's going to be like once you've hired us, you know, so illustrating that journey so they can visualize it in their mind. Well, when you get to those
JP, we've got a couple more. JP, we've sorry to cut you off, but we've got 3 more questions up there.
Okay.
So
yeah, put quotes in there.
We got another one that says, what do you say about the concern for case studies? That you just giving your competitor a list of sales targets?
I mean, I've heard that come up a lot as an issue, but I personally, if you're actually branded well, your offering is good, and you're performing as you need to, especially with how focused we are on remarketing, upselling, and customer retention campaigns, because that's a big thing for us, is making sure that, you know, keeping what you have and raising that average customer value of the client list you've already earned. It's not that big of an issue. I mean, there's a lot of paranoia in marketing for sure. I don't have any qualms against making it clear who we're working with. Now, in a lot of cases, you don't have a choice. Like a lot of our clients, they don't want us to openly communicate that, you know, they're a client for whatever reason, so we can't. But in the cases where you can get the buy-in and produce that case study, I see no problem with putting it out there.
Well, KP, I just like to jump in there on case studies, and I work about a lot of that kind of stuff now here at Axiom. But I'll tell you that if you do a case study, you're going to go get your client who you've had for years, and see if they want to be a part of a case study, and they're going to be a great client, and they're going to talk about, and it's going to be like how you recovered their data in a really bad situation. And this isn't going to be a client that someone else is going to be able to pick up. So you pick them selectively. I'd actually say another question is here, give us a sample message that differentiates a single MSP when we all offer the same services. I would just say, I'd like to go back to what my example was earlier. I like to go after certain verticals where I was extremely strong, because you might be all offering the same services, but they might not all specialize in the same verticals. And if you can position yourself as being an expert in a particular vertical, that will differentiate you.
Yeah, and this is a complex question, but the answer is there. This is where getting into branding, again, is such a big deal, because when you contextualize your offer into a brand, you have a very different look and presentation to what you're doing. Then the differentiation comes naturally as an extension of how you're presenting yourself. So one of the biggest challenges here is not so much that the MSPs all sell the same thing, it's that they all look exactly the same while they're doing it. You know, if you've got the same list of services, you've got the same looking website, you present the choices, the sales process the same way as everyone else, yeah, you're gonna have a really hard time differentiating. But, you know, small changes in how you brand, how you make your offering are what's going to allow you to stand out. And then you play your messaging off of that. I mean, take a look at our website, yoursalesenergy.com. Perfect example. We're a marketing company. There are a lot of marketing companies, and most of them present their offerings in a very similar way. And we changed the very nature of how we approach what we offer. Instead of saying, you know, here's a list of, you know, website creation, email marketing, this, and that, we actually focus on the process. You know, tier 1, we take you this far into your process. Tier 2, we take you even farther. Tier 3, we completely build out your marketing and get you where you need to be on all 3 steps of this journey to business growth. And that's the same thing that an IT company can do. An MSP, instead of saying, here's a menu, pick your choices, you brand, you contextualize those choices around an experience. You build a real narrative that you can pull these people into, and that's how you differentiate.
Now, JP, we're going to have one more question here. I want to thank everyone for their questions. I know there's a couple we didn't get to, but we've got your information, and we're definitely going to reach out to you. Or you can always email me, tomw@axion.com, or you know, JP's information, all of it's up there too. This is also going to be published on the MSP Ignition resources page. We'd like to thank everyone, and we'll be sending a follow-up email with a link to the takeaway that JP described. I just have one more poll question for everyone. And JP, do you have any parting words for everyone as we close out MSP Ignition 21?
Yeah, just if you have any questions about that content writing or what we were talking about with the branding, I would say the next webinar that we do hopefully is going to be on branding, so we can get into that a little more deeply. But yeah, feel free to reach out. I mean, I have no problem conversing and discussing, and part of our initial evaluation covers a lot of these things. So just get in touch with Your Sales Energy and we'll take you through it.
All right. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Please stay tuned for more information on the next MSP Ignition coming up in October. And thank you, JP.